Welcome to the Sports Note for Wednesday, May the 21st. I'm sorry I hadn't been with you guys recently. Trying something a little bit different. I think I'm just going to try the audio and maybe do a little bit of a visualizer thing. It's not that I don't want to go on camera. I'm already doing that enough with the Wise Guys show. Um, but with some of the issues with my camera on my Chromebook, kind of going in and out at times, uh, having to edit video if it does freeze. This is also something that I can even record while I got a little bit of downtime in my office. I could do it on my phone if I wanted to. I can even record snippets while I'm sitting in the car stuck in traffic at that point. But it might allow things to kind of flow a little bit better for me because I don't have to actually go back and forth between, screens and everything. Uh, but we've officially opened both the Eastern and Western Conference Finals in the NBA. We've also done that in the NHL with the Western Conference Finals in the NHL starting tonight. But also we've got Game One of the Eastern Conference Finals starting tonight after Oklahoma City had a pretty significant sized win yesterday in a game against Denver in Game One that was back and forth for a little bit. Denver did have a pretty commanding lead early, and then we actually just saw the resiliency and just how good Oklahoma City's defense is. But in Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena, we've got Indiana taking on the New York Knicks. And one of the key reasons why the Knicks and the Wolves are both where they are is the trade that occurred earlier this summer, um, or I should say last summer, or really just before the start of the season. And it was the one that really not a whole lot of people really had on their bingo cards, and that was the three-way deal involving the Knicks, the Wolves, and the Charlotte Hornets. And the focal point of the trade was Karl Anthony Towns moving from the Timberwolves to the New York Knicks. So he's now going to be paired up uh, um, with Derek Brunson. And so the to kind of rehash there, the Knicks end up getting Towns, and they get the draft rights to James Najaji from Charlotte. Minnesota gets Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, Keita Bates-Diop, and a future first from the Knicks, who acquired this pick via Detroit. Charlotte gets Charlie Brown, DeQuan Jeffries, Dwayne Washington Jr., two future first round picks from the Knicks, a 2025 second rounder from Minnesota, and cash considerations. Karl Anthony Towns, uh, if he's not the one, he's the 1A as to how the Knicks have been this good. Brunson has was certainly the biggest piece of them upsetting the Boston Celtics in round two, and that's even before the Jason Tatum injury that's now going to probably keep Jason Tatum out. Certainly, the rest of what these playoffs were, the final two games of it for the Celtics, but all of next season. So there's talk that he may not be ready until October of 2026, if not January of 2027 after rupturing his Achilles. Um, but with the Timberwolves, uh, Julius Randle was certainly going to be the odd man out. Dante DiVincenzo was certainly going to be the odd man out. But there's outside of now named the 2024-25 uh, MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in Oklahoma City. Um, as great as he was during the regular season, I think there's very little um, dispute that Julius Randle might be the best player in the playoffs right now for Minnesota coming over from the Knicks. And you know, being a Clevelander, seeing a couple of Cavs games against the Knicks, and especially one of those games in the playoffs a couple of years ago, that series where the Knicks took out the Cavaliers in five in the second round. Um, but also I caught a Knicks game, a Knicks Cavs game in Cleveland late in the season, and I just remember Julius Randle being a problem, regardless of Derek Brunson on the floor or not, and you know, even though they've both came from Kentucky and where it's my least favorite program in college basketball, along with probably a lot of other people's. I've still got a lot of respect for Randall and for Towns, for the way that their game has transitioned over, to the NBA, as now they're both in their 10th plus season. Look at the similarities between Towns and Randall, as we're down to the final four here. Towns is 29. He's in his 10th year from Kentucky. He was the number one overall pick in 2015. Julius Randle is 30. He's in his 11th year from Kentucky. He was the seventh overall pick in 2014. Julius Randle has a player option after this season, which he's more than likely going to pick up. Um, and he's a UFA after next year, unrestricted free agent. Uh, Towns is in the first year of a 4-year extension he signed with Minnesota this past off season. He too has a player option, but that doesn't occur until the summer of 2028. DiVincenzo's another piece of this equation. He's in the second year of a 4-year deal that he signed with the Knicks in the summer of 2023. So it just shows really how close these two were. And you have to cut you have to go back. We've seen one for one trades before. We've seen package trades before. We've seen massive package trades before. I don't know if I've ever really seen a trade where both sides, and again, Charlotte, this was a three-team deal. This is hopefully going to be able to help them with those draft picks, especially in the very near future. With the first rounder coming up, um, I'm sorry, the 2025 second rounder coming up from Minnesota, and then the two future first from the Knicks. But you also got to keep in mind here, if you're Charlotte, you haven't been to the playoffs in several years. You want to be able to hit on at least one of these, the two future firsts, and maybe be able to take something with that second rounder, and move up, because that 2025 from Minnesota, is certainly not going to be a very high pick. It's certainly going to be towards the back end of round two. And then with the Knicks appearing to now have their resurgence, as they certainly seem to, for about a 3 to 4 year stretch every decade. This is now looking like the Knicks are also going to be a mid 20s, mid to late 20s pick in the first round. It's certainly not going to be a lottery pick, but you also figure Charlotte, if they have their own first round picks the next few years, are certainly going to be in the lottery. So they're going to be able to stockpile a lot of very good young talent at the top of the draft, and then fill out their roster, to maybe strengthen their organization with their G League affiliates. Uh, Possibly to pick up some European players that they could actually use as capital down the line. But again, the main focus right now, is Minnesota and New York. Now, Minnesota did drop game one in their series, and at the time I'm recording this, the Knicks are up by 7, relatively early in the third quarter, in game one over the Pacers. And there's a lot of people that were hoping that we could get a Minnesota versus the Knicks NBA Finals. Um, we actually have to see how Minnesota responds in game two of that series. And certainly it would be, uh, you're going to have to see the officials kind of tighten the whistles a little bit, as SGA was a foul machine. He drew a ton of fouls all night, but more so especially in the second half. Um, but Brunson and Towns seem to be the you would hope on paper they would hope to be the next great kind of Batman and Robin tandem, or the 1 and 1A, your Michael Scotty, your Clay and Steph, type pairing. you got your star guard, you've got your big man down low. And Towns is really also not known for being the most physical of players. We do actually remember him getting into it with Draymond Green, within the last 18 months. And with Randall going over, uh, if if it wasn't for Oklahoma City being this good and this dominant through most of the regular season, where they were certainly they had the either the first, second, or third best record in the NBA all year, ended up having a two-game uh, clip on Cleveland when the regular season ended. They clinched the best record in the Western Conference by nearly a dozen games. It was actually 16 games over Houston, and Houston goes out in round one. It was 18 games over the Lakers go out in round one to Minnesota. And if you also look at the roads that both teams have taken to get to this point, the Knicks knocked out Boston in six in the conference semifinals, and then they took down Detroit in six in the first round. And that was a very upstart Detroit Pistons team that kind of gave the Knicks a lot of what they can handle. The Knicks go out and against Boston, and they take the first two in Boston, um, and coming back from massive deficits in the second half. Minnesota, on the other hand, I don't want to say it was a bit of an easier road, but look at the competition where they go out and they eliminate the Warriors, who were in the play-in tournament, in five. Granted, a lot of those games were very closely contested, but they also ended up knocking out LeBron and the Lakers in five in the first round in a highly contested series as well. But LeBron is 40 years old. Luka Doncic was part of the reason why the Lakers got the three seed, but his conditioning is going to have to dramatically change if the Lakers want to kind of get back to that to a top four seed next year. This was also a lot of pundits and nationwide are saying that this was Steph Curry's best shot at a championship in Golden State. I don't see a scenario personally where Curry's going to leave Golden State in his career. I don't think it's going to be like a Joe Montana type scenario where he plays his whole year and his heyday with one team and then goes to another to finish out. It's not going to be like a Tom Brady type thing. Um, Curry is still an elite player. He's still a top 10 player in this league, but he's on the back end of 35 now. And how much more time does he really have left? The core of what we're seeing in Golden State certainly is going to be uh, dramatically changed. Um, the the idea that, again, both teams benefiting from this massive a player swap and being this successful the first year out of the blocks is incredibly rare. When you get a trade like this, usually one team benefits and then either the other team gets screwed with this, it doesn't pan out, or it takes a few years to really kind of develop. We've seen bad trades in sports, kind of set one team back for years upon years. We've seen what's happened with the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson comes over from Houston. Houston gets a whole bunch of high draft picks, and now suddenly Houston's a division champion year after year after year, using those high pick talents, from the Browns, and the Browns are then left with a quarterback who has played 19 games in 3 seasons and is likely not going to play at all in 2025. We remember the Wayne Gretzky trade, both from Edmonton to LA and then also from LA to St. Louis, that in the short term, it was great. He goes to a finals with the Kings, doesn't win it, The Kings are in the playoff, but they're never really a you know a major Stanley Cup contender. Edmonton really was not. Um, they were just kind of there with what they get back from the Kings in that trade, and then certainly when he goes to St. Louis, the Blues get him for a cup of coffee for only half a season, get knocked out in the second round by Detroit, and then all the players that go back to LA that really kind of don't pan out. Maybe one of the three, and then there were some draft picks involved as well. So to be able to see something this big happen prior to the season and then have the rollover that it has, you really have to tip your cap to both front offices again of the teams that were involved where massive players were moved. For Charlotte getting Brown, Jeffries, Washington, three draft picks and cash considerations, that's just basically being a facilitator to take some guys out here and then stockpile some capital and fill up some roster spots. It's certainly not going to put butts in seats the way that Randall, DiVincenzo, Bates, Jop to an extent, and certainly Towns will involved with this deal. So let me know what you guys think. Who made out better with this deal? Where do you actually see these two going here with the conference finals? And I will be back with you guys very, very soon. Take care.